Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wowhead Weekly number 224. We all are waiting for all of the news Shadowlands Alpha, Shadowlands Beta, and it seems like we still have a little bit of waiting to go. But it was April Fool's just yesterday, and there are some other interesting things that have happened since the last show. So we do have some things to cover, some World of Warcraft news for you guys, and yeah, let's jump into them. Actually, before we do that, let me introduce myself. I'm Annie, also known as Annie Fuchsia, and I'm a full time streamer on Twitch. And as usual, I have my very, very lovely co host, Perculia, who is always here and helping us keep up to date with everything.
Hey everyone, I'm Perk. Usually there's a cat, but he's in the other room right now. And yeah, we took a short break just because the news was super slow as Blizzard transitioned to working from home and things have been getting canceled, like various events. But there's been some interesting news recently that we wanted to round up. Besides the 100% Winds of Wisdom buff, we also had that Burning Crusade survey and lots of April Fool's Roundup to cover as well. And some really popular Blizzard merch that the timing's a little off, but they're really awesome statues regardless. So we wanted to highlight them as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
the timing is a little bit funny, but you will like them if you haven't seen them yet.
Yeah.
So we will
Yeah.
show them very, very soon. The Jaina and Sylvanas statues. But first things first, let's talk about April 1st. And as usual, as traditionally, Wowhead also had their sets of April Fool's jokes that maybe Perk, you want to introduce to us?
Yeah. So before I start, I just wanted to say that I know there's been not some controversy, but people have had opinions of April 1st should continue or not continue
Mm.
across various industries. And I feel that in the case of something like Google, that is trying to be a news organization with serious updates on the health crisis, and April 1st would be confusing for their brand. But I think like for websites, different games, if something isn't in like poor taste, like making a virus joke, for example, I think that it's healthy to just sort of continue as normal, because there's been so many little details for people that are privileged to still have their jobs working from home. There's so many little details that have changed, and I just feel that if people stop doing April 1st, it like lowers the morale of the people that always like creating the pranks, and
Mm-hmm.
it just it would be sad if we just stopped like a 10-year tradition that's like really popular, and then the people that look forward to it are also sad as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
we
thanks for
didn't.
commenting that. I was
Yeah.
not super aware of the controversy because well I don't run Wowhead, so I don't see all comments and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a very good thing to mention because it's I completely agree. If the jokes were in distasteful ways, in a way referencing the virus, that would be awful. But I think keeping it the way that it's always been, with making little tweaks about the game itself, I think that's okay because, to me personally, having a website which is meant for my favorite game is should still be my fun place, right? And
Right.
if the my game is suddenly limiting certain fun because of something which is going on around in the IRL world, that would not feel so good because gaming is, after all, an escape, and it's always been. And so it feels good that you guys did continue to do it.
Yeah. And like I said, it's sort of like our high point of the year where the devs and the artists get to be creative and kind of do like wild stuff on the site. So
Mm-hmm.
we planned a little earlier for this one, always assuming that, alpha would hit. So we wanted the jokes done way in advance. And then when alpha didn't hit, we kept adding little tweaks. And I think it helped us stay like motivated to do our jobs, that after we, did all the routine stuff, we had a little bit of extra time to do something fun.
Mm-hmm.
So what we ended up doing is, as usual, we announced a new patch. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Last year it was patch 8.2. The year before was 7 point something. This year it was 8.35, and we did 3 jokes as usual, including one referencing Pepe, because Pepe shows up in every April Fool's joke since he I don't know, was hatched, was born. The
Was
first joke.
hatched. Mm-hmm.
The first joke was the gift of ny'alotha rewards. We thought it was a little plausible because people really wanted there to be a permanent reward. So we added this cool like body tentacle customization option in the dressing room where if you keep the gift, you can have these wavy cool tentacles.
Mm-hmm.
And actually had a practical purpose because now we have, if Blizzard ever adds something that's like body cosmetic effect, now we have support for that. So it had a practical use.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's always
And it
good.
looks super cool. It looks really nice in all the Warlock sets, like the Tier 3 Arena set. It looks really pretty with it.
Mm-hmm.
And anything Void Elf.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had the Pepe, of course. If you keep it on, you get a little matching Pepe that's wearing the gift as well. So you can be wearing the gift, and then you can have a Pepe on your head also wearing the gift.
Yeah.
Yes.
Matching
The
each
next
other.
thing, yeah. The next thing we did, which was the most popular video that we made, was the idea of war campaign cosmetics. This was based on some people saying that, you know, it seems sort of anticlimactic that you finish the war campaign and you just get a bunch of, you know, artifact power and it just sort of ends. So we thought that it would be neat if we would find cosmetics that are tied to your choice, like whether you're Alliance or you are like the Sylvanas supporter or the Sourfang supporter. We tried making some of these a little absurd. For example, we're like, oh, you get variant weapon and it does a cosmetic effect when you jump in the air and splits into two weapons. We thought that, you know, like maybe, or like, you know, you can get Jaina's necklace and necks are now transmoggable. We thought that that was maybe starting to, you know, stretch the belief, but I think it would be cool if necklaces were transmogged. Seems like a missed opportunity with the Heart of Azeroth to add a model for that could be shown.
So I was actually out all day on April 1st, so yesterday. I was in my own world of doing things, IRL.
Yeah.
And I was told about these necks, and I was like, oh my god, that's awesome. So I fell for that one. I was like, wait, that's amazing. Finally, because, you know, it's very fitting. BFA has been about the neck, which has no real visual. So having necks finally be visible was great. The splitting weapon thing was the thing where I felt like that's way too cool. Wait, what date is it? But
yeah,
the
we
neck,
purposely
I fell for that.
We purposely staggered the reveals. So at first you'd be like, oh, you know, like, did Wowhead find a new build? Oh, they added some videos. Oh, they added this totally over the top video. Wait, maybe this isn't, you know, real. So we tried to have the later update feel more wild as we went through. But yeah, I would love cosmetic next. I know maybe that could be the next cool thing, like the backpack idea, because that opened up a lot of, you know, transmog options. Even if it wasn't even the next lot, but like a shirt that had a visible neck piece that you could, I don't know, toggle on or off would be cool.
So this is the let's go back to this one. This is the Jaina neck, which I was the most happy about, but unfortunately not now. Maybe sometime in the future. I guess we'll see. I also have an image of the weapon split right here. Looks so cool.
We modified these weapons as well. So these are all like unique models that we made. I believe the necklaces were things that we made based on other assets, and the weapons as well when they split. So our model team has been doing a lot of really awesome work.
Yeah, they do look recently. Awesome. And then we have the Saurfang Loyalist a reward right here in the form of the Horde neck.
Yeah. A lot of people really wanted this one as an actual reward, I feel, out of the four of them. Well, I guess, you know, Variance Weapon was also popular, but a lot of the Horde people really wanted Sourfang's necklace.
Yeah, no, these are not real. This is the roundup of April Fools, and admittedly, I fell for some of these, and like specifically the neck ones, but these are not real. Unfortunately,
this is just us highlighting stuff going on Wowhead, and giving some insights as to like why we did these things, and what the process was behind them.
Mm-hmm.
We originally were going to add quests for them, but it was like too much work, because then you start having to like write quest text and like start and end NPCs. So I'm just like, let's just keep it mysterious. We'll just have these 4 items appear,
Mm-hmm.
and go with that.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, saving the best for last, we made surfboard mounts.
Yep.
And we gave them a cool animation where it looks like they're sort of like hovering through the water, and they are Alliance and Horde versions. We said that they were from a promotion, but we didn't want to say it was the shop mount because we didn't want people being
Negative,
like
yeah.
into Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just like, oh, could this be a charity thing? Could this be a summer thing?
Yeah.
And we had a lot of fun making these. Props to Stevon and Songzi for putting these together. This was actually inspired by, we were fixing our model viewer, and the alpaca mount was broken and it was sliding around on the ground with its knees bent. And we're like, wow, this looks so cool. It's hovering.
Oh.
Why don't we like make a mount with this animation? So we made these hover surfboard mounts, and we just sort of pieced it together from other WoW models, and we had an artist quickly make up the Alliance and Horde logos. And I think the rocket end is pulled from like the big love rocket, and we just textured a random board doodad in WoW. And yeah,
That's awesome. Like the
we've
whole
got
process.
these mounts.
Yeah.
We didn't really have fancy equipment. I think Stevon tweeted out a picture where it's like, I made this in MS Paint, and then we just stuck these 2 things together and textured them. So yeah, it was really fun to do. We worked on this over the course of a month. It wasn't obviously our main, job, but we would brainstorm for a few weeks, and then 1 week we reviewed the models for the mounts, then another week we reviewed the models for the cosmetic things. So it was a nice constant thing to refer to and work on as the news got worse.
Mm-hmm. I think I have the video here because I saw the message from Lincoln saying, "Can we see the animation?"
Oh yeah, you definitely show it.
I was showing pictures, not animation yet, so let me quickly pull up this video.
Yeah, you can see the human male and the Volpera riding the surfboard.
There it is. I'll turn the volume of it down a bit. You don't need much volume for it, but yeah, there it is.
Yeah.
So, most important question: does this mount have water walking?
We didn't get that far, but I believe in the video we show it hovering over the water, so it would have water.
Yeah, I'm just remembering the
the amount equipment. Yeah.
The Dreadwake mount, which is a boat.
Yeah, the boat.
Did not have water walking. This was before the mount equipment, so obviously now you could put water walking on anything. But before that, you could not float in the water with it. That was silly.
So.
But yeah, there it is. It looks really cool. Honestly, very well made. So good job, you guys who worked on that.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And then we made like fake item tooltips, which we've been doing actually for I think close to a decade, but I think more people paid attention to it this year because I actually took pictures of the item tooltips and put them in the post, as opposed to just kind of forgetting about them. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like all the devs got really into it. When we made our Pepe item, and we have to, add a spell ID to the use effect. When summoned, Pepe is dressed like a servant of N'y'alotha. The dev purposely picked an ID that was like 4343 for Pepe, to have it sort of spell that out. So we all just had fun with it. But it wasn't just us. A lot of people did creative things, which we wrote a roundup on Wowhead. Including like our WoW and Raider.io, and Method being like, oh, we're no longer taking breaks, so we're going to hire twice as many Raiders. But I think we wanted to also highlight in the show the actual fake WoW patch notes that the Blizzard team made, because these were pretty fun. So I don't know how much of these you've read, but thought it would be cool to just highlight some of the funny things. And some of the pictures, like the Kultiran Worgen.
Yeah, I was gonna mention the Aladreces was
Yeah.
the most interesting in terms of visually, at least, since there's
Yeah.
pictures. So we can show those first.
Yeah.
We have a new Aladrese, if you want to believe. No, it's not April Fool's anymore. But a Kultiran Worgen here.
I like how it's just like a Kultiran wearing a Blizzard onesie. Like,
It's basically just the
yeah.
transmog. Actually, nothing more than that. But I thought that was pretty cute. So that was the
Yeah.
Kultiran Worgen that was announced by Blizzard, and the High Mountain Goblin.
Yeah, what was interesting about this one is that if you look at the hairstyle, I don't think the goblins have the braids like that. And I'm almost wondering, is this, a new hairstyle they could get in Shadowlands, on a more serious note?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting because the hairbands holding it together too is very, I guess, high mountainy. So
Right.
then the question is if those were just put there as a temporary thing for the joke, or if those hairbands would be that detailed. That's interesting.
Right. Yeah, so I'm just curious about that one, if that could, highlight anything more seriously. There's also two more races that they didn't have pictures for. One was High Dwarves, which was funny because everyone's like, "Oh, I want High Elves for the Alliance." It's like, "Oh, well, you're getting a different type of race."
Yeah. And like the way they word it too. Like the long wait is finally over, and the much requested High Dwarves are finally coming to Azeroth. Like, wait, this was high requested? Okay.
Right. And then the Mechatoran, which would that actually look pretty rad if their horns were all metal and spiky. But yeah, some other things that I thought were interesting. Where did it go? Oh yeah, there was an Animal Crossing one that I thought was pretty funny. Do you remember?
No.
Did you read that one? I'm searching. Sec. It said it had the word raccoon in it. If I can remember to spell
what one that I?
Oh yeah, all bells. Oh yeah, miscellaneous. All bells have been removed from the game. We're not sure why, but some raccoon showed up, said something about a house, and ran off with them.
I missed that one. A raccoon showed up, said something about a house, and ran off with them. Okay.
I also thought you would like this one, as with your with the big love rocket. After receiving a great amount of negative sentiment having something to do with the big love rocket, we've decided to make the big love rocket mount 50% larger and give it a 200% speed boost. Thank you for your feedback.
I worked so hard to get that love rocket, so yes, I deserve this change. Make it happen. Not overpowered at all.
I also like the shaman one, how it was just like no adjustments needed to the class.
Yeah. No adjustments needed.
Yeah. So, yeah, they did, class notes, and then there was some essence notes.
Oh, yeah.
There was one
corruption. Funny essence one.
Yeah.
Now, the most accomplished and powerful players, those who do a significant amount of pet battling every single day for many consecutive days, can obtain vision of perfection. That's awesome. That's me.
Yep.
Pet battling. Finally rewarded.
I like how they have the dev note being like, we haven't completed our tuning pass on this essence. We want to get into players' hands as soon as possible. We're really looking forward to seeing if players find a use for it.
Yep.
So it's like, it's good. It's good that they can poke fun at how sometimes the thing has to be shipped.
Yeah.
Yeah, or it's just like, like here's this overpowered thing that won't exist in its current form, but it just happened to go live with the other updates we had to put out.
Because the major effect of this essence is reflects all incoming damage. This effect scales with the number of max level battle pets you have in your collection to a maximum duration of 30 seconds with a 60-second cooldown. Yeah, I don't know. I think if mages have ice block and paladins have bubble, I think it's fair that I get to have, an essence like this. Just reflect all
Yeah.
the damage for 30 seconds. I mean, they can just not do damage to me, right?
Yeah. I
then they
like how
won't be punished.
conflict and strife is also, this essence is now only obtainable fishing. So it's like, oh, you all
Yeah.
complained about PvP. Well, how about,
Yeah. Yeah, if
test
you need
your patience
conflict
with
and strife,
fishing instead.
get fishing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm still happy Blizzard put these notes out. I think it's, like I said, it's fun to have something that is, clearly some sort of fake or is in line. Like they always do patch notes, so it'd be weird if they didn't do patch notes.
Mm-hmm.
I know Overwatch did googly eyes as well. And like I said, like lots of other places like RWow and Method and Raider.io did jokes like, we've expected from them in past years as well with their
Mm-hmm.
own unique style.
I think it's important to keep the jokes up because we,
Yeah.
we, we play the game to to have fun, to find things to laugh at, to have fun with friends, and it's I think it's okay to sometimes not have to uh, only face the negative things that are happening around the world if you're in your little bubble of games. I think that's okay.
Yeah.
Like just because
So,
the world is gloomy doesn't mean that we have to make everything gloomy. I think that's the best way to be able to, get past it as well. Um, I think it's important for us as humans.
yeah. I'd also say that if you are, concerned about April 1st, or there are things, to just, keep trying to also be angry at the root of the problem. Like if you think that it's not appropriate for April 1st because of the state of the world, like make sure that you are trying to, help support, small business owners or people that are maybe out of work, or, just trying to spread kindness around you instead of
Mm-hmm.
just, railing at like a random place for making
That's
an April Fool's joke.
That's also a very good point. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of things that we can do in these days to help
Yeah.
things, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that where your action like that is just not necessary and doesn't help anyone.
Yeah.
So if you don't agree with how somebody does something, uh, don't waste your energy on that and instead do things that are helpful. A lot of stores out there, local shops, are probably struggling because people avoid going out, people avoid
Yeah.
spending too much money because people don't know where the economy will be. Just go out and make sure that you do your regular shopping in the local shops
Yeah.
so they
Gift
don't have to shut
certificates, leave
down.
them a
Yeah.
nice note, if you have a job opening, spread it with someone unemployed. Like it is a pretty stressful situation. But addressing the root of the problem as opposed to attacking like companies or places, making jokes, I just think is
Mm-hmm.
a better way to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, bring some
Mm-hmm.
balance to your life as well.
Unless, like Perk said, that the jokes are specifically about uh,
Right. Yeah.
the
Something
disease
super
itself, then that
tasteless, like
wouldn't
people
be good.
dying.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
then you've gone too far, and you're
Hmm.
not cool. But just
Right.
making jokes that are completely random or to do with whatever your company is. So World of Warcraft about World of Warcraft, and then I'm totally for it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
there's
this
also some
comment.
news.
Oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Just like the last thing, I just want to respond to a comment in the chat. Like, stay home, buy
Yeah.
online. Exactly. That's what most people are
Yeah.
doing. And
Hmm.
a lot of times that is the best thing. But sometimes actually going out just to buy something from the local store, maybe picking a
Or a lot
time.
of places do stuff online now. Like I know a lot of places here are swapping to just doing
Mm-hmm.
deliveries.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can support local online as well, or buy a gift certificate
Mm-hmm.
and use, buy it now, save the cash, and then use it when it opens up again.
Mm-hmm. I
That's
think
what I've
that
been
the
doing.
idea of local store is really, really important as well. Because
Yeah.
maybe huge companies like Amazon may not be struggling as much as your local store that normally sells toilet
Hmm.
paper, right? Then Amazon is fully
Right.
sold out, while your local store has tons of toilet paper, but nobody wants to go out. So little things like that can help by deciding to go to the local store, maybe at a time when there's not so many people outside and you don't have to be very close and um, like
There's like a lot
interacting
of
with people.
curbside pickup, like no contact
Mm-hmm.
delivery. There's lots. I mean, obviously, don't run out there and embrace, hug a roll of toilet paper and shake
Mm-hmm.
everyone's hand. But
Mm-hmm.
there are little things you can do with a touch more effort to try to spread some goodwill and
Yeah.
help those around you.
Yeah. I wanted to say this before we changed the topic. That was all.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
you can go ahead, Perk.
Yeah. So I was going to say that in addition to releasing patch notes, Blizzard also released some serious news on April 1st as well. And there's some actually very cool merchandise at a more affordable price point. The timing is a little off because they're of BFA characters and they literally have a stand that says BFA on them. But I like these. We should bring them up. They are statues of Jaina and Sylvanas. And if you're like, oh, I've heard that before, they're $1 billion. These are only $36.99, and the other statues are close to $300. So yeah, they're a little smaller, but I think the expressions on them look great. I like how you actually get the water elemental with Jaina and Sylvanas' smoke. And I know people didn't like Jaina's face, and I think her face on this one looks better. So I think this is a really cool budget option for people that, definitely, don't have the budget for it, or they want something on their office desk that isn't, a 2-foot statue. I just question the timing of them. Like, everyone's like Shadowlands and yeah.
Yeah. Like, let me get some BFA merch when Shadowlands is coming out next month.
Yeah. I mean, I could see Sylvanas, but Jaina was more BFA 8.0 thing, and the timing with Sylvanas is a little questionable. Like, I feel it would have made more sense in early BFA when she was made to be less of an explicit villain, whatever her true motivations are, responsible for Sourfang's death. So I feel like this would have been for Sylvanas fans, it would have been better time to release this merch. But I think the quality
too. Yeah, go ahead.
I think the quality of these is good. I like their poses. It's very dynamic.
I love the face.
And yeah, I think there's a lot of details on the face. I really like Jaina's face, and if this is the first of more statues to come, that's only a good thing. I think I would like a Bolvar one of these. An Ashara one would be pretty cool. Like I own the Jaina statue. I don't know if people can see it. It's off in the corner. I think you can see her glacial tidestorm at the bottom. But I mean, I can't afford to buy a statue like that for every character I like, and I certainly don't have the space. But I could maybe see getting, a few smaller ones if they do more characters in this style.
And those big statues were $300 each, right?
Yeah.
And now these new figurines are 30, 40?
Yeah, 36. Of course, international shipping and all that fun stuff, but that's the case no matter what you buy because GG fanatics. But yeah.
It's still 10% of the big statue price. So it's people who were considering maybe buying the statue, but then deciding that it's too expensive and might consider buying these figurines instead.
Yeah. I also want to point out that if you go to the order page, they have something called like special event, and that's just a fancy way of saying pre-order. So you will not get these, I believe, until around August 28th, which so is also strange because it's like, no. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, when is Shadowlands going to be coming? That seems awfully, late. But that it is what it is. I feel like there must have been something that went off with the production schedule. Maybe there were like some licensing challenges, or they couldn't make these until they swapped to Fanatics, or I don't know, but it just seems really strange to have a Jaina statue come out now because Jaina was so important in early BFA, but then her role kind of diminished the further you went into the expansion after Dazara lore. Like this would have been a really good like patch 8.1 statue, like Christmas stocking stuffer back when BFA came out, but timing's a bit weird. But on the other hand, if people are spending more times at home and have a desk to decorate, and they're also concerned about budgets, maybe this is actually a good budget-friendly alternative for your new home office setup.
Yep, indeed. And apart from statues, there were also some art prints. that I
Yeah,
can show you
this was
guys.
also funny timing. I first saw this art used. The art's by Eric Braddock, and I first saw this art used around BFA launch. I think for like PC Gamer magazine or one of those general gaming magazines. This was used as the art for several covers, and that was a while back. I saw it on ArtStation like nearly 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And photographic prints that can either be like framed or a stretch to a canvas or a freeform canvas were just made available, yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that seems to be a strange time to have, pictures of Anduin and Sylvanas standing in front of Undercity. This seems like
Yeah.
it would be another good start of BFA thing. But you have to wonder if there were some delays to add more art because there was art from Hearthstone's Descent of Dragons update, which was, also a while back. I mean, they just announced the new expansion. Like, that's no more dragons in Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm.
And then Diablo's Birth of the Nephilim, which was more recent. We saw that, I believe, for the first time at BlizzCon. But that was still a few months ago.
Yeah.
So the timing of this again seems a bit off, but
Mm-hmm.
maybe on thinking positively, maybe this means that if there were some pipeline issues getting the merchandise created and up and out there, maybe it's smoother sailing in the future.
Mm-hmm.
These are more expensive though. There is a little bit of like sticker shock with these. I don't think people realize, sometimes myself included, that when you pay for a nice frame, not like an IKEA frame, and it comes with a protective cover, that adds a lot of money to prices. This is why I exclusively use IKEA frames because they're like way cheaper than anything else. But
Yeah.
yeah, like if you pay for art with a frame, even if it's just like, oh, it's a photograph print versus the finest, quality art print, it adds a lot to the cost. And same with canvas hangs. If they're really big hangs, it will, the figures will increase just because of the, craft that has to go into printing it and the sheer size of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I feel that like if this was me, I would get the statue. I think the statue is more affordable bang for your buck, while the prints are more of an indulgence.
Mm.
Especially because there's no cheap budget option.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. Like, I know other people were very excited about the artwork as well when we shared it on Wowhead. I'm just advising that they're not as cheap. You're like, oh yeah, Sylvanas merch, the statue is cheaper than the artwork. So don't get that mixed up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing to be warned about as well, because yeah, if you get a poster, it's basically a piece of paper. So you need
Yeah.
to have something to use to be able to hang it in the first place, and that will add more costs. So if you get a statue, then the statue is ready for you, and you can put it
Yeah.
up somewhere to.
Plus, you have to hang things on the wall to buy like sticky things or hammer and nail and
Mm-hmm.
do things to your wall.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
Yeah. But yeah, on to more serious news. This was sort of the main reason why I'm like, oh, probably do a show.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, the survey leaked.
Oops.
Blizzard sent a survey to many people who were playing WoW Classic, and the survey was about what they would do if presented with the theoretical Burning Crusade expansion.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked people, how frequently are you playing Classic? Do you like it? Do you play with a guild? Um, and how much they would be interested in Burning Crusade. But the most interesting question was how players would prefer to approach a new character in Classic. Interesting for several reasons. I'm going to read all the options. Interesting because, hey, a survey about this sort of confirms that it's almost a thing because we
Mm-hmm.
had that survey about the Shadowlands leveling before BlizzCon.
Yep.
And the options I feel are sort of incomplete, so I'm just going to read them out and see what we think are the pros and cons. So the
Mm-hmm.
survey said that, do you want to continue playing your classic character on the existing server? And then that server would naturally tick into Burning Crusade, and then there would be other servers staying as classic. would you start a brand new character from level 58 on a Burning Crusade server? Would you start a character from level 1 on a Burning Crusade server? Or are you just interested in playing on a classic server that never progresses past level 60, and you can transfer to a TBC server if you want to? I feel like this is a mouthful saying Burning Crusade thousands of times. To me, the option which should be added is you can keep the level 60 character on the classic server with either the option to make fresh level ones and level in TBC, or to copy the character onto Burning Crusade. I don't think people should have to choose between do I keep my level 60 on classic or Burning Crusade. I think it would be cool if they could instead duplicate it.
Copy. Yeah, I agree with
Yeah.
that. Mm-hmm.
Because that way you can still feel that like sense of progression when your character many years ago was going from classic to Burning Crusade without wiping it and starting over from scratch. But if you are enjoying doing the classic content and you don't want to give that up, like maybe you have like a cool PvP rank, or you've farmed a mount or did something difficult with the old system, you can still experience classic. I don't think I don't know. I feel like definitely sparked a lot of controversy and discussion. And I don't want to be, too harsh on Blizzard because they didn't announce anything yet, and I'm sure there will be a bigger discussion on this. But yeah, it was interesting timing on this. What do you think would be the best option for people looking to play Burning Crusade?
I agree with you saying that there should be some kind of copy system, because I think for me personally, for example, I would love to continue having my warlock on a classic server, continue gearing it and continue progressing it, progressing all my all reputations, farming all profession recipes, and just I guess in a way have a sense of completion with classic.
Right.
And I realize some people might be then like, okay, well, when all raids are done and everything is done, then you have nothing to do. Well, I think it would still be fun to reach that sort of end game.
Yeah, they could also do like classic seasons, like like speed running, or I don't know, maybe like I don't know, like Diablo style seasons. I don't know, see how far you can get doing something, or who clears something the fastest in 6 months, and then stuff resets. I don't know. But I mean, it's so popular. I feel like it would definitely be worth some resources on Blizzard's end to keep both things going.
Because I think it's still fun to go to raids, even if you have everything from there, just to be able to go in there with all buffs and all consumables, and just pushing your numbers and things like that. I think it would still be interesting to have that going. Having said that, I think it's also very nice to be able to copy that character so that you don't have to repeat all those very grindy things. And I'm not only talking about the leveling, but also things such as reputations, special items, and titles. If you're somebody who's farmed the PvP titles, I think those things should come with you to the TBC server too.
Well, it's also a sense of ownership. Like if you were playing vanilla back in the C hit, you didn't just roll a new character, you took that character with all the memories and you brought it to the dark portal. So I think it would be good if you had the option to replicate that for the people that do want to progress on. But if you are classic, die hard, no arena, give me rank stuff, you can keep the character on the classic server as well, and maybe play both versions at the same time, exactly, and see what you like.
Yeah, I think it would be nice to just have the option to copy your character and then be able to play both, basically. The only downside I see with that in general, being able to get a level 58 character for free or copying your already level 60, is... Do you think that kind of kills the overall leveling spirit on the TBC server?
I mean, it does. So it's like the leveling in TBC is the same quests pretty much from like 1 to 60. Yeah. So I feel like people already got that experience with classic. I mean, obviously some things are different, like there was different class balance. Maybe I think maybe there's some UI updates. I think for mountain pets, bag space would be different, but I would kind of be okay if you're going into the mindset of here's this character I'm attached to, let's experience TBC. Back in the day when you took that character, you started questing in Outland. So I would be okay if you replicated the character and then you started experiencing stuff 58 onwards, 60 onwards in Outland versus having to, redo everything from scratch. But yeah, give people both options. If they have ground out that level 60 character in Classic, give them the reward of letting them copy it. And for those that don't have a character in Classic, no pressure. You can, experience the quests, from scratch at level 1.
What about people who never got to 60? Let's say somebody leveled to level 30. Do they still get to copy their character or should they restart?
That's a good question. It's tough, right? Because they didn't get super. I don't know. That's really interesting. I know so many people. So many people are, I feel like PvP, open world PvP, kind of scared some people away on servers. So maybe people would welcome being like, oh, if I can just see the same quest on Burning Crusade and it's different, maybe I'll do this instead.
Maybe it's even tactical to continue leveling on Classic because most people are on TBC now.
Yeah,
like, I'll continue leveling on Classic because, hey, I'm going to be ganked more over there.
Right. Or it's like someone like farms up all the stuff on one, like on Classic from the they swap to Burning Crusade with a bunch of gold and materials.
Oh, that's a good point.
I don't know.
They would probably have to limit the amount of things that you take with you for an economic standpoint.
Yeah, plus, like in Burning Crusade, like there's so many more ways to make money and like new things are in demand and, quests give money that I feel like it wouldn't be a huge hardship if someone was like, I am the czar of vanilla. It's because, TBC has a different economy.
Yeah, I think they would definitely have to limit how much gold you can carry and how many, I don't know how they would do that.
Well, there's limits on, like when you
limits
when
of
you
how
transfer
many
in
herds,
retail.
Wow. Like, what if you stack your bags with thousands of worth of gold of items? Although they wouldn't necessarily be worth that much.
Yeah, they're not needed. Right. Yeah.
Like Black Lotus won't be needed as much because there'll be new things.
Right. Exactly. But yeah, it's definitely this has obviously spawned a lot of discussion across the community, and also it feels as if this is all but confirmed, especially because back in May, Blizzard made it seem like they had the tech to support all of this now, which they previously didn't, and they could more easily spin up archival versions of their game.
Do you think also there should be a limit? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say that the week before, they also announced the Hearthstone expansion, Ashes of Outland, and it brings back Illidan and the Demon Hunters. So usually we've always talked about how they sort of are intertwined, like not something super, lore heavy or serious implications in WoW, but there's always sort of a playful, back and forth between the two games, like the Tortolan were in Hearthstone first, Old God parallels, the Uldum transmog set came out when Hearthstone did the Uldum. We had Descent of Dragons, and then in WoW we had the super detailed, Dragonflight, Rathian back questline uniting all the Dragonflights. So there's always kind of these playful parallels going on. And when I saw Ashes of Outland, I'm like, does that mean Burning Crusade could get, announced this year?
Yep.
Maybe.
Yep.
And it would also make sense why there is a PTR. Maybe they need to test both versions of the game, or they are, already preparing for the next thing to test. Maybe they want to test different setups where you could, log on to Classic and transfer to Burning Crusade. They want to test out all these weird bugs or different options and the issues they cause and, implications.
The thing that I was wondering was if you think there would be a limit. If you consider that some people have multiple level 60s, are they allowed to send all of them, just one? Or how is that going to work?
I
It,
think multiple. I mean, yeah, I think up to a certain point, multiple would be okay because you had like, if you had so many 60s in vanilla and Burning Crusade, you could take all your 60s and take them to Outland.
it makes sense,
Uh,
honestly, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I think, like you said,
Uh,
if you've done the work of getting to 60, you shouldn't be punished just because TBC happened to
right,
be a different server. You should be able to send them all,
right.
or copy them all, rather. I think it should be a copy.
Yeah.
I don't think it should be a send because I don't think you should lose your classic progression feeling. I think you should be able to play both.
I also think, as a side note, these surveys are also interesting, especially with their timing, because they drop some gigantic bomb like, level change in Shadowlands, like Burning Crusade might be coming, and then they have this little fine print being like, oh, we've randomly picked you, like, please don't share this, because as soon as they share it, as soon as they send it out, and it's a really big thing, everyone shares it, and none of these people being sent it randomly were signed like a legal NDA. They were just basically given this nugget of information, and it's really easy to skip over the hey, please don't share this term.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you sort of have to wonder, 3D chess, like, is this, you know, purposely meant to be out there? Because if you're
I mean, it
sending this
happened with
to
the level 60
thousands,
survey.
yeah, if you're sending this to thousands of people, like out of the blue, it's like, yeah, like there's no, like, how can you track who shared what? Like, as soon as this was posted, I saw all these posts on the subreddit and Twitter about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because people get really excited and they want to share. It's like, hey, did you get that survey? Oh, I got that survey.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's interesting if they do really want it to be more NDA. I feel like they need to either pay people to fill out the survey, and you have to sign an agreement that your money is contingent on not leaking this, and you could
Mm-hmm.
have legal or game ramifications if you leak this and tie something to your account. So, like, I don't know, like your battle tag is watermarked, or there's something going on, so you can't just share a screenshot. But if they're just going to like randomly, it's sort of like they're just like yelling, and then they're telling people in the room not to share the information with people.
Well, maybe the idea is that they specifically wanted answers from these decided people, whether it's random or
Right.
maybe it's different
Yeah.
age groups, maybe it's different play styles. I don't know how it was decided who is going to get it and who isn't. So maybe
Right.
the important thing is to get that data in order to be able to decide, like, how should we do this? And the fact that it's leaked was probably something they expected since the level 60 survey also got leaked. But at the end of the day, it
Right.
doesn't affect their data, right? Because they decided
Right.
who can answer
And
them.
now they have discussions where more
Yeah.
people are weighing in, and they can
Yeah.
see how
Mm-hmm.
well different ideas would be received. And as
Mm-hmm.
sort of like, if you tell someone, like, don't touch this, then everyone wants to touch this. Like, someone would be
Yeah.
like, oh, like, don't talk about this. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like, oh yeah, let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm. I think the data will be
Yeah.
interesting, and like you said, it sparks conversations, which is probably something they were expecting to happen as well. So then they go out and watch all those YouTube videos by content creators who are talking about
Yeah.
this and things like that. So I think, yeah, opening discussion is always good, and they just quickly wanted some data, so they just sent it out, and then it's like free advertisement at the same time.
Yeah. So we've also had some retail news.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of these changes are like kind of making the game fun in ways that maybe should have been there. Maybe not the first one, but basically, as more people have been staying at home, Blizzard has been making a lot of kind of drastic changes, some permanent, some temporary, to better facilitate people that are, wanting to have some fun without
Mm-hmm.
slogging through the boring part.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing is that there is this buff called Winds of Wisdom, 100% leveling boost, runs through April 20th. I wonder if it's going to be extended. Like, I
Yeah,
just
I
have
think
to
it might as
wonder.
well. Yeah.
Like, I'm seeing that, like festivals and things in Europe are now canceling their July and August events. So I'm like, is
Mhm.
this going to be like permanent buff on through the pre-patch?
Mhm.
I think it's going to be that.
I think it will
Uh,
continue. Yeah, probably until pre-patch. I think until
yeah.
pre-patch sounds like a good time because at that point people want to play the pre-patch and not necessarily level more characters. Um, but it
And there's a new leveling experience. Like there'll be
that's
the
true.
squish,
Yes,
there'll
yes,
be the
yes.
new like 1 to 10
Yes.
zone that you can do.
Very good point.
Uh,
So experience
but
boost wouldn't even
yeah.
make sense at that point because they want us to try how it's supposed to be at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Having a boost going on at the same time would just skew the data a lot.
Right. Plus, I mean, it would also be we're having all those abilities that are getting unpruned,
Mm-hmm.
and they wanted leveling to feel more fun. So
Mm.
in theory, maybe if leveling takes longer with the squish, or I don't know, maybe it wouldn't take longer if you only quest through, one zone versus, you know, six continents.
Mm.
People will have a lot of fun of abilities back, which should
Mm-hmm.
make it more interesting.
Indeed. And I think
Um,
also the experience bars and everything will, in general, just all feel different. So
right.
having a boost wouldn't make sense in any way. Just straight up showing us how it's going to be with the new expansion would make the most sense.
Yeah. So that runs through April 20th for now, but I have a hunch it might be extended. This is just looking at the trends. Like, the office where some of my coworkers go in, we originally closed through April 13th, and they just extended it through May 4th. So I feel like a lot of the deadlines people came up with in mid-March are now seeming too optimistic, and they're extending things
Mm-hmm.
further. So I feel like this might also be extended, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just a guess. I don't have insider info
Yeah,
on this stuff.
nothing confirmed,
Um,
but
yeah,
potentially extended, potentially up until pre-patch.
yeah. And then there have also been some changes once you hit max level, and we actually wrote a guide to what to do once you hit max level because um, if you want a bunch of alts for Shadowlands and they're not going to be raiders, but they should have like a cloak, or they should, have basic gear at a certain eye level for farming. There are some ways to do the basics that are way easier than others, or like things you can skip with the legendary quest line. So we actually made a guide to have like a low effort, 120, because you might be questing and things are really fast, and then you hit max level and you're like, oh, like this is so overwhelming, like,
Yeah.
what's going on. So we wrote a guide to that.
A lot of
um
people have been asking me as well, like, hey, so I took a
yeah.
break in BFA, like, what's going on? What should I do first? And it's
Right.
funny because I'd be like, oh, yeah, you should do the cloak quest. And then other people point out in the chat, no, for that, he needs to unlock Najatar. And it's like, whoa,
Right.
okay, yeah, I don't actually know what you're supposed to
Yeah.
jump into if you miss the entire BFA. So
Yeah.
having a guide like this is great. I think a lot of people come back, anticipating Shadowlands,
Hmm.
and it's the final patch of the expansion, so it makes sense that people want to come and just see what happened.
Yeah. I mean, like, as far as traffic, I feel like a lot of people are playing obviously Animal Crossing because it's very like normal and like soothing. But we've even seen like a WoW traffic increase since the buff. So we've had more traffic than 8.3 launch, or classic Blackwing Lair launch, just because more people are at home and they like the routine of doing things in WoW. Due
Mm-hmm.
to I would say, I mean, the buff definitely helped with retail, seeing a classic increase, which there is no buff. It's just people are maybe they have more time, or they need something to take their mind off issues, so they're going back to the leveling grind is kind of what we're seeing player behavior.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so going back to retail, some of the max level things they added, this was sort of one of those, why didn't they do this beforehand? Legion loot is now classified as legacy,
Mm-hmm.
which means that it should be easier to get farming raids for things like tier armor. Um, and basically, Blizzard said, we've reached the point in an expansion where the content from the previous expansion no longer requires a full group. Legion raid and dungeon encounters will drop a fixed quality of class agnostic loot. Today, if you and one other player enter the raids on mythic difficulty, it's unlikely that you'll receive any loot, since drop rates scale to the number of players. after this change, the bosses will always drop 5 items from her loot table, regardless of your group size.
Yep. And it's also
And
the change of
yeah,
from personal loot to like regular group loot, right? So you can also
yeah,
loot things that are not on your class's loot table.
yeah. Um, and you know, maybe if you're doing like Mythic Argus, you need, you know,
Oh, your voice cut
soloing
out there
it.
for a moment. If you're
Oh,
doing Mythic
can you hear me again?
Argus, yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you're doing a very difficult end boss, you may need more people, but you know, many of the earlier bosses can drop the tier gear that you're probably, you know, fine getting. Doesn't need to be from the most difficult boss.
Mm-hmm.
And this feels like a good time to do it. It kind of makes you wonder, you know, like, hey, you know, maybe you could have done this sooner. Especially for the people, you know, farming Emerald Nightmare for things like, you know, an artifact appearance or the Xavius shoulders, stuff like that. Um, and it's also a sense of like, yeah, like this is a fun change. People really like it, you know, like you know, it's a good not to be stubborn and a stickler about this, and you know, enabling it before Shadowlands goes live. I think it's a good move. Like it's something, it's old content. People are still really happy with it. It shows that you can make changes that make players happy, that isn't tied to, you know, here's some elaborate new thing. You know, sometimes people just want to have fun collecting armor. So it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, you know, don't fight what people want to do. Just kind of give them what they want and they'll play the game more, type of thing.
I remember there were complaints about this Legion not being legacy loot and staying as personal loot for
Yeah.
a long time when the expansion had just hit, BFA that is, but they never
Yeah.
changed it. And I guess it might have even been a plan since then to do it later. And maybe that's to give us more content in the in between times, right? When the expansion is
Yeah.
kind of over, but not really, then they give us those things. Just to
I feel
have
like there
more
was a
things.
similar controversy. I feel like back when they introduced this, Warlords wasn't included, and then people really pushed forward, and eventually it was included in the first pass of Legacy Loot. So it's a similar type thing. Maybe the
When was that?
popularity.
When was that changed
Uh,
for Warlords? Do you remember?
I feel like it was leading. Um,
Like, was it pre-patch for Legion?
yeah, I
Wait,
feel like
no.
maybe
Pre-patch for BFA, I
maybe
mean.
I feel like pre-patch for BFA and the level requirement meant that you couldn't do some you couldn't farm like ending warlords stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then they changed it so you could do some warlords things.
Okay.
So but yeah, I just feel that you know, Blizzard is making some changes these you know, unconventional
Mm-hmm.
times, and it's interesting how people are responding like really well to them. So
Wait,
maybe that's
hmm.
interesting feedback as well. You know, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, what happens if you just sped up leveling so people could get to the good stuff? What if you know, made armor easier to get? Like, you know, like people, and if if people keep playing, then that's interesting feedback. Being like,
Mm-hmm.
you just totally changed how something worked, and people are liking it. You know?
I think having an experience boost randomly like that, due to something like having
Yeah.
these quarantine times, makes a lot of sense and is very nice of Blizzard to do. The Legion Legacy loot. Now that I think a bit more about it, if we can find out exactly when the Legacy loot changed for Warlords, that would be interesting because it might actually be the exact same time, like it's exact same point in the expansion.
Yeah.
Because that would
Um.
mean that this was a plan all along, but we just didn't realize because there's only been one expansion of that happening.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to Google this quickly,
Mm-hmm.
but it's
Mm-hmm. Because so it's Warlords
yeah.
into
Oh,
Legion. Yeah.
yeah, I think yeah, so personal loot and legacy loot mode was introduced in the Battle for Azeroth the expansion patch.
Okay, so it's
Um
a bit too late to say when it was. Like it was introduced too late for it to have the same system, I guess.
yeah. Um and it's really difficult to find things about Warlords of Draenor. Um it's like, I don't know, it's like Google just scrubbed that from its collective memory. Um
So Legacy
yeah,
loot versus personal loot was introduced in
yeah.
BFA pre-patch. The system
Yeah.
itself. Okay. And then Warlords became Legacy Loot.
I feel like that wasn't the case, and then they changed it later on. But yeah, it's just I'm just trying to find this. I'm like really curious now.
Yeah, I'm curious too.
Warlords of Draenor Legacy Loot. And it's just like, did you know that Legion is Legacy Loot? And I'm just like,
wrong expansion.
I don't want this. Yeah.
Yeah, but it seems like for us to make a connection of the same situation, it wouldn't be possible because the system was introduced too late.
Yeah. I'm seeing a Wowhead tweet, but it's like it links to the wrong tweet, so that's not working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am looking at this old post though, and people had lots of strong feelings about transmog farming in the past. So
because I'm wondering if this will become a regular thing. Like we can expect BFA turn into Legacy Loot in the last patch of Shadowlands. Like maybe that's what they're going to do in general, because a lot of people tend to spend that last patch. Even I have mentioned it a lot on stream as well. People ask me, when are we doing transmog runs? And I always would say, I always do that in the last patch.
I figured it out. Okay, so originally, the Legacy Loot mode would require 11 level difference between your character and the expansion you want to farm, instead of 10 levels. So people thought that people were like, oh, if it's 11, that means I can't farm Warlords. But then it was actually then I believe they changed it to the 10 level difference, which meant that Warlords was safe.
So Warlords was immediately Legacy.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, which makes sense because it was already in the pre-patch.
And looking at this, it seems that Blizzard wrote 11 everywhere, and then looking at this, I'm just piecing it together. So Blizzard wrote 11 everywhere. We reported on that, and we're like, oh, 11 Warlords of Draenor. And then Blizzard stealth changed it to say 10 instead of 11.
Okay.
And then everyone's like, okay, we can breathe again.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, this is it's interesting to see if this will be a common thing then, to just put Legacy Loot of the previous expansion once the last expansion is out. I mean last patch, sorry, of the expansion.
Yeah.
I think it could make sense, as that's usually the time that people go back and don't have much to do because most content has been through, and you start looking at alts and maybe transmog that you're missing and things like that.
Yeah. That sort of brings us to our final topic, which, everyone's discussed this to death, but this is kind of the, biggest thing.
For alts.
My mom, my mom just sent me a text message saying happy birthday, but it's not my birthday, so I'm confused if she sent that to the wrong person.
I was gonna be like, wait, is your birthday today? Wait, when is your birthday actually?
It's the 12th. It's Easter, actually.
Okay, because it crossed my mind, like, wait, I think your birthday was actually in April. So, okay, the 12th. Pretty close to each other. Yes.
Yeah. I just that's why there's the pink. What's going on?
Late April Fools.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of alts.
So obviously everyone knows that account-wide essences are a thing. For months, Blizzard was like, we're not doing account-wide essences, It's still not, easy mode. Everyone gets every essence unlocked. There is the currency, as you all obviously know about. But, I mean, this is sort of the biggest sign of Blizzard really, experimenting with something they said they weren't going to do, or making something, easier to get, and people really, enjoying it, and it makes you wonder, like, they were so set on no account-wide essences, and suddenly the quarantine gets bad, and it's like, oh yeah, account-wide essences. And then it's like, oh, it's like yeah, was there, maybe it's okay if leveling doesn't take forever, maybe it's okay if alts can have essences, and I think that if more people are playing, especially alts, maybe Blizzard will have useful data to take moving forward. Like, yeah, we made this more accessible to get, and instead of people getting bored earlier, it encouraged them to play our game more. So maybe, hopefully, they're seeing that data, so they, for systems in the future, it's more alt friendly.
I think honestly, this was kind of what I expected. I think they said no because they didn't want people to ask, okay, when? So
Right.
just to avoid that discussion, they just simply said no. That way, people
Yeah.
would hopefully shut up about it, except people didn't shut up about it. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's why they did that. And I remember when Dratnos was on the show as well, and he was like,
Yeah.
no, account-wide essences is probably not going to happen by this point because it's way too late. And then I
Right.
remember at the time we had not reached our max level cloaks, and
Mm-hmm.
LFR was not out either, all the wings, and just generally speaking, or technically speaking, our main characters had not reached the end game yet. So it makes sense from that kind of RPG standpoint that because our character hasn't reached end game, it's not time for ults yet. And I think it's no surprise because I said at that point, no, it's not too late at all. There's still plenty of time for it to happen once we have finished progressing our character. And it might sound silly, like who progresses LFR, right? But it's still in the storyline of progressing character that all content is out and your max
Yeah.
level on your cloak and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, do I like it? No. I think if it was earlier, it would have been a lot nicer for us to be able
Mhm.
to progress through. I would not have to farm a very boring quest lines to unlock certain essences, especially. And it would make sense for it to be there earlier. But from a standpoint of technicality, I think it does make sense for them to go account wide when they did.
Yeah, I also think that at the end of Legion, we kept getting powerful. And it had kind of, it felt more hype and it was based on the story, but by Blizzard doing things like making the corruption gear from Horrific Visions, making the account wide essences, having the cloak continually upgrade, we're getting that power boost as well as time goes on now. Like you said, I think it's better if it was done earlier and it felt more tied to the actual immersion of the game and not like, oh yeah, suddenly account wide, go this extra thing. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy that they also had the I don't know if humility is the right word, but I'm happy that they had the guts to not just be stubborn and we're like, okay, yeah, we said no account wide essences in the past, but we were maybe wrong. We listened to feedback and we were trying to change things. So it wasn't like, well, maybe they were right, but as a point of pride, like we said this, we got to stick to it. I think it's good that they were able to change course and, hopefully they've learned something from it, especially if people are suddenly playing their alts a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
then this would be a positive sign that doing something like this was healthy for the game and it didn't just lead to, oh, I'm bored, I have everything, I won't do anything.
Do,
So hopefully they're getting some good data from
do you think this was a response because of positive feedback? Because I strongly believe that this was in the plan all along. And I think they said no to not cause too much discussion of when, and for people to, when they finally get it, be like, oh, finally. Instead, it became like, oh my
So
God.
I honestly, so I mean, I think that what you're saying would be interesting from a marketing perspective, but I mean, I honestly think that they had a certain system in mind. And like, BFA has been all about we have the system in mind, we're gonna try it out.
Mm-hmm.
And they sort of like were sort of like too entrenched. Like remember it was like, Azerite and reforging
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I
and they
completely
wanted
agree
things
with
to be
those.
so
Yeah.
I feel like with this, they're like, okay, we want this to be a certain way, and then they they just finally were like, okay, maybe we're wrong. Like maybe they had this breakthrough that, hey, instead of just digging our heels in and trying to have people adapt to our vision, maybe we should adapt on the fly. Change up essences. Change up the corruption from horrific visions. I think I honestly think I like to think the best, and I like to think that they finally became more open-minded as opposed
Mm-hmm.
to, well, like we secretly want this but we're not going to like tell you, and like yeah.
Like, I don't
uh
necessarily think it
yeah.
was done in like an evil
Yeah.
way. I think they just thought like
Yeah.
that's the most hype way of doing it.
Right.
because
I
it's
think,
like it's the
yeah.
last patch, like, and everything is done. Now it's the time for everyone to, in a way, have access to entire game from any character, and the it's a long season. If you look at it from like a PvP perspective as well, it's a long season. And if you look at PvE as well, now is the time when people will want to play their ults into the more difficult raids too. And
Yeah.
it's a the last raid is always the one that will never be outpatched in a sense, right? We
Hmm.
can always go
Right.
back and finish all raids of
Hmm.
at mythic difficulty, even if we're not mythic raiders, except the last patch. The last patch is usually the one that most of us who are not mythic raiders do
Yeah.
in the next patch. Sorry, in the next expansion. So it's like the perfect time to give availability to your full game and full alts. And so for me, it kind of makes sense for them to have done it at this point. Wasn't it similar with the legendary system in Legion 2?
Yeah, I think so. If I'm they had a few different things going on at the end of Legion with
Mm-hmm.
legendaries.
In terms of being
But
able to buy for
yeah.
your ults. I think that was also in the
Yeah.
last patch.
Yeah, let it was buy legendaries for all Legion. Oh yeah, buy specific legendaries in the battle for Azeroth pre-patch.
Okay.
Uh so that was actually done not leading up to the pre-patch, but in the patch.
In the pre patch, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think account wide in pre patch would be very, very harsh because at that
Yeah.
point, that would be. I think the pre patch for Shadowlands is a lot more interesting than pre patch for BFA because Shadowlands has a new leveling system, and that in itself, I think, is enough content. So I
Yeah.
think that's why count white essences would be now. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe it was purely like a change of mind because of feedback. It is also, of course, very possible. And maybe this was planned for pre patch, but due to the feedback, they did it now instead. Um, so yeah, there could be a lot of different options of how this was thought
Yeah.
out. It would be very interesting to know, but of course, it's probably information that they may not be
Yeah.
100% be able to share it. So yeah.
Yeah. I would just, I just hope that I mean based on people playing.
Or you're cutting a little
So
bit.
test.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm seeing on Wowhead that more people are playing WoW recently.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that, if Blizzard maybe, stuck their neck out, tried something different, went back on their vision, they're trying something experimental, making
Mm-hmm.
things easier. Um, and if this turns out that more people are playing and they get, feedback through data that people are logging on more frequently,
Mm-hmm.
even if people complain on the forums, they're still seeing the majority of people playing a greater variety of characters, doing things for enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that will be like a good confidence boost in Shadowlands that they can, um, adapt, do things differently, try to pivot more with feedback. They should be less hesitant to, try out a different like acquisition philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we'll see. Speaking of Shadowlands, we still don't have any info on it.
No. Shadowlands
As
Alpha soon. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, Riot has that Valorant uh beta coming really soon, right? And I feel like Riot is also a big fish.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
so I wonder if that stuff is going to drop, and then didn't they open up beta signups and Twitch crashed on them? Like
Wait,
I feel
really?
like
I didn't know.
yeah, I think to sign up for the beta you have to
Oh, wasn't like drops
connect you.
enabled on certain streams?
Yeah, and I think too you have to connect your Riot account to your Twitch account and then do some other
Oh.
things to be eligible, and
Uh-huh.
Twitch flaked when they announced it earlier this week. So I feel like
Oh.
if that info is also bubbling, Blizzard probably doesn't want to compete with that because they don't just rely on sites like Wowhead for info. They want to have your general gaming sites that cover many games, and they want to be the headline. They don't want it to be split with Riot getting top billing and then Shadowlands
Yeah.
underneath that.
Yeah.
Especially because Riot's thing would be a brand new game, not a really cool update.
Mm-hmm.
So that just sounds more exciting for PR, and of course then all the big streamers would be playing
Oh yeah, they would definitely
that
try it.
game.
Yep.
And then, Blizzard likes the metrics of, oh, we announced this and like we're number one, not number two next to Riot.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Alpha, I feel like if they ever, well, they have to release info, but I feel like the streaming drop will not be whenever Riot does their thing.
Yeah. I wonder if
Uh,
they would want it to be like that comes out first, and then they wait a week, and then they
yeah.
announce maybe, or they
Yeah,
want to
I
be
think
sure that it's done before them, like in good time before them.
yeah, once, let me, do they even have a date for this? Riot's shooter Valorant goes into beta on April 7th.
Oh, so it's already announced. Okay, so
Yeah.
well, I think that means we will probably not have Shadowlands next week.
Yeah. I
I
don't think
think
we'll have it on April 7th.
my
Yeah.
birthday. Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
don't think it'll be next week at all. In that case, I'm thinking it's gonna be the week after.
Yeah. Also, I know that like obviously we're all working from home, but like Friday is considered like a holiday, for many people, especially those with like family or small kids, and then like also Sunday with Easter. So, yeah, it's you may have, people that are not around to be monitoring like feedback, if especially if they're like, you know, religious, or
Oh yeah,
they're,
what exact dates are
trying
considered Easter again?
Easter, I think it might be different. We have a coworker in Serbia, and Easter is not April 12th. But it is April 12th, my birthday. And then also Good Friday is considered like a very serious day for people of different, branches of Christianity as well.
So would that be the 10th?
Yeah.
Okay. So what they could do
Um,
is release it after Easter. So maybe
yeah, or
14th,
they could
15th.
do like for Battle for Azeroth, we had the data mine
Oh, you're
in
gone again.
February.
We had
Why
the
is it
data
doing
mining. Yeah, it's like
we
sometimes
had the data
cutting. I
mine
don't know why. Yeah.
did the data mining in January and playable in February, so maybe they could like, I don't know, start doing like previews or like an ENU video data mining. Um like I don't know, like like just maybe like the weekend before the Valorant thing, or like maybe midweek before Easter and then drop the playable stuff after Easter. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I mean, it's definitely interesting though that the traffic and everything continues to increase, unfortunately due to people being at home, but it's like weirdly generating this hype and interest in WoW because everyone is playing it at
Home
home
play.
and
Yeah.
thinking about it again.
Mm-hmm.
People that if there wasn't a quarantine would not have been playing WoW. So it's this really strange
Mm-hmm.
like PR effect how it's like, more popular than it has been in many months.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of services online in general are doing better due to quarantine. And then a lot of
Yeah.
non-online things are the people who are, or the companies that are suffering the most.
Yeah, I mean like there's so many like layers to it, but I feel that for like online businesses, like a food place might have more delivery, but like the company that hosts the food would be taking most of the money, and maybe the servers get tipped less,
Mm.
or
Mm-hmm.
maybe a site has more people looking at it, but people don't have money, so they're not
That's true
buying
too. Yeah,
stuff
yeah, yeah, yeah.
through the ads, or they're buying
Mm-hmm.
like cheap things. But as far as
Good point.
the game, the sub price is the same for Blizzard, so um yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this is not me. I don't want people to take this as like, oh, like Blizzard is profiting from the quarantine, like they're rolling in
Mm-hmm.
cash. This was just me saying that
Mm-hmm.
it seems that more people are staying at
People more
home and
active.
playing
Yeah.
WoW, as a result of
Mm-hmm.
wanting something soothing to do,
Mm-hmm.
as a routine that's kind of escapist, whether
Mm-hmm.
they're leveling in either classic or BFA.
And it's not necessarily increasing sub count at all. It's more a case of people who are already subbed who would maybe
Right.
normally play 5 hours a
Playing.
week are now playing 15 hours a week, for example.
Yeah, like Friday night is usually a pretty dead time on the site, and it's like a super popular time now because everyone is,
At
they're
home.
staying
Yeah.
home.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
I don't think Blizzard or companies like Wowhead as well may necessarily
yeah.
be making more sales per se, not necessarily more subscriptions or more things like that, but just more activity because people are just using it more.
Yeah, like our customer support team has been really busy,
I can
asking
imagine.
questions.
Yeah, people
Even
have more
even had
issues because
people
they run into more things.
thinking, like, we have people going to site feedback, thinking that we're Blizzard, which is, really flattering, but they're like, oh, like, how do I how do I activate my account? And we're just like, we're not, Blizzard here.
Yeah.
Um,
That's cute, actually.
yeah. But yeah, as for BlizzCon, I still feel like it's too early to say. They always
Yeah,
announce it in April, but it
but now
feels
they can't.
really, yeah. And I know some like arts festivals in Europe started that were like August or July started being canceled. Uh and I feel like the cancellation date is getting like pushed down the line more. It hasn't reached November yet, but it just feels really risky to announce something, even if I don't mean the projections are very unclear, but even if the projections say that November is safe, like so many people have money concerns that thinking of taking a vacation and going on a plane and being in a crowd of people
Yeah.
and paying Anaheim Convention Center prices, like if it's
It's
Halloween, that's like
expensive.
premium.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels very like not the mood for that.
Yeah, like BlizzCon in general for me, like I go to a lot of events during the year, and BlizzCon is always the
Yeah.
most expensive because
Mm-hmm.
of like even the ticket itself is very expensive. And normally when you buy tickets, let's say you do manage to get through the queue, you tend to buy a few extra tickets because you know there's always going to be somebody who wants to
Right.
buy it, who didn't manage to get a ticket. So you might buy a few extra tickets. But now it's like, do I even want to buy it? Like, what if it gets cancelled and I have to deal with refunding? And what if the date is changed and then I won't be sure if I can even take the time off work? And it's just very unsure. So I think they would have to wait with the sales and not do it in April. Maybe start considering it in June, July, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like it could be, since, it's all about innovating now, maybe like what happens if there is a virtual BlizzCon where like you'd essentially would have to, sub to get access to see the panels, or there
Yeah.
could be like online viewing parties or like Discord watching
Mm-hmm.
parties. Like I know Netflix has that group viewing party application people use to watch together. So they could get creative and do more virtual things. Like I know it felt very short staffed last year with how Blizzard let so many people go. And to an exec, maybe their jobs weren't ooh, like sexy development, but it was all people that made BlizzCon run really smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it
maybe it's
might
sort
be
of
an
a weird
online
time to
show.
be like,
Mm-hmm.
like go, take a step back. Maybe it's more sustainable this year to do an online show, especially because we have less people to help out than in the past for elaborate shows. And
Mm-hmm.
we also have to get an expansion out the door and, keep developing games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but yeah, still too early to say.
Because they could still
And
have the whole
yeah,
virtual ticket sense thing where certain news are maybe first available to virtual ticket holders and things like that. And maybe some cosmetic things to do with that as well. And obviously, they would lose all the ticket price money, but if they don't have to actually host it at Anaheim, then obviously their costs will be lower too. So I think it could work to just have a virtual a
right.
virtual
And we just
BlizzCon this
saw
year.
that they announced that the MDI casters, which I know in the past that they would fly everyone to Ohio and then they would like live there for a month as they would, cast the matches.
Mm-hmm.
They announced that all of that would be online.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
maybe this is like a small step to say, if we can do Overwatch at home and like WoW at home, could we build up to an event at home as well? I
Mm-hmm.
suppose another. I don't think there's any news on Gamescom yet, but if that ever got canceled or moved, I think that would be a pretty big indicator of what was
Gamescom
going on
is
with BlizzCon.
yeah. Gamescom is
Yeah,
so complicated. Like you can't really make a virtual Gamescom because there's
yeah,
so many. I
because
mean,
it's not
I
just
guess
one
you
thing.
can, but
It's an
it's
industry expo. Yeah,
yeah, like a lot of companies pay to be at the event. because they want to show off something. And if it's virtual,
Yeah.
you can't show off in the same sense. So it won't be the same. But I feel like BlizzCon will actually not feel that strange. Like a real BlizzCon compared to a virtual BlizzCon, I think is closer together than a real Gamescom to a virtual Gamescom.
Yeah.
I think. So I think it would it could work. But yeah, I think since you mentioned, a lot of things have been cancelled from June, July, and even August now. So Gamescom is probably also going to be cancelled. It's getting really close.
Yeah. Well, let's just hope for the best, I guess, and hope that if they can't do something, there'll be a virtual alternative. And in the meantime, to just try to keep building that community spirit in your real life, but also online life. Being courteous to other players, trying to do fun events, being understanding. Just reaching out to your guildmates if someone's quiet, seeing if they're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, definitely is a very unexpected, different
Yeah.
sort of time that we're
This year.
facing this year. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's so many people who had planned vacations and planned anything, and it's like suddenly like, oh, well, that's not happening. Oh, never mind. I had one of my regular people in my community mention yesterday in my stream that they were going to go to Spain this week, which they booked 3 months ago, and now they're suddenly not, but they're still going to take the days off work because it was already planned so long ago, and it's yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these things folds out. It's
Yeah. I
because
had
we've
a
never
really
gone through
interesting
anything like
week.
this.
Yeah, I was going to fly to New York next week because to celebrate my birthday, because like a lot of my friends are there.
Mm-hmm.
My best friend just had a baby, and because New York is such a big center, they were really limiting the amount of people that could be in the delivery room. At one point they banned everyone, so that was
Yeah.
like a lot of extra stress.
Mm-hmm.
um so canceled the trip,
Yep.
can't see the new baby. And then I was like, okay, I'll buy myself a super cool birthday cake. I ordered it from a local business, and they just announced on Instagram yesterday that they're going to be temporarily shutting down as of the 5th. So I'm like, oh, I guess I don't have a birthday
Oh.
cake. And like, it's very like first world problems, but it's like disconcerting how, like, even if you're like, oh yeah, I work from home, like it's routine. It's not like all these little things, just like everything is just like slightly off,
Mm-hmm.
and like it just sort of adds up in your head, and you're like, oh yeah, like I've actually been inside the house a lot. Or oh, that's weird, like why can't I celebrate my birthday? It just kind of messes with your head. Obviously I'm very thankful that I have a backyard, and like I live by myself, and like my position is stable. But it's I just wanted to say that so I don't sound like I'm whining about little things. But it's just so weird when you're expecting something, and then like gradually you're like, oh, I can't like go here, oh, I can't do this, so I
Mm-hmm.
can't do something basic.
Mm-hmm. Like
Yeah.
for me as well, I feel very lucky that what I do is from home. So in a sense, my daily routines haven't really changed. But of course, there are little things like that. Like we're used to a certain store being open, or we're used to a certain gym being open, or things like that, where even us people, I don't know what to call it, home workers,
Yeah.
or at home office people, also experience change. But of course, it's a much bigger change for people who just don't have the same routines at all anymore because
Hmm.
they simply don't go out to their workplace or school. My sister,
Or
she's
they have to like teach their own kids because there's no school going on.
yeah, well, my sister has online schooling actually. So she's 17,
Oh
and what they
yeah.
have is because I asked her a couple days ago because she has this very special schedule where one week she has high school basically in the afternoons, so from 12 1ish to 5ish, and then one week it's like early from 8 to 1ish or something. It's a very special schedule that they have. And so I
Right.
asked her, okay, so do you have afternoon school or morning school this week? And she's like, it's afternoon school, but it's at home, so like we don't have to consider the traveling time. And I was like, oh wait, you have school at home? She's like, yeah. Like it's still the same time, from
Right.
1 to 5, but
Yeah.
it's like it's at home, like online. And I was like, oh, Right. Okay.
That also makes me think about BlizzCon, because if a lot of schools have had the routines disrupted, like, can someone with a family like safely feel that they can take time off? Like, if schools had to take emergency breaks before getting set up, they have to make that time up later in the year. So, it's just like, can you actually take off from work? Can
That's a
your
good point
child
too.
actually be able to take off, from school? Can you actually book a family vacation at this time, or is it going to be like super mandatory that are at school in October?
Mm-hmm. And I heard
So it's,
there were some special. I may say the wrong things now because I don't remember exactly what it was. But I think in Sweden they made some kind of change where everyone who's in school or high school, as long as they're attending everything, they will all pass the year, regardless of their performance, because of considering everything that's going
right.
on. And I thought that was pretty interesting too because. That might mean that later on, let's say it's in your last year of high school and you're suddenly not having to worry about grades, which is nice and all, right? But then what if
Right.
you go into university in, let's say, next term or next year, and then suddenly you're lacking so much discipline from going to school? It's going to be
Right.
like, just because we have this like quarantine thing going
Hmm.
on now, it doesn't mean that when the quarantine is lifted, everything will be smooth. So
No.
that's
Yeah.
why, yeah, having a random BlizzCon like that might be very, very a
Also,
very
a
bad
lot of
idea for a lot
vendors
of
might
people.
not be around, like, catering services, lighting services. Like, I'm sure the Anaheim Convention, super small local businesses, but there's just so many, like, the ecosystem, it will just be disrupted when you think of like food, hospitality, people that do assistance with things like, makeup, or like, even hotel staff. Like, so many have been laid off. There's just
Mm-hmm.
all these little details that we don't think about, and it's going to take time for all of that,
Mm-hmm.
to rebuild. Like, who, maybe a lot of these companies have like temporarily laid off a lot of people. They're not operating at full force. There's so
Mm-hmm.
many variables that it seems irresponsible to announce this now. And I think they would get a lot of backlash if it's like, oh, like, here's like $200 ticket, and everyone's going to be like, Blizzard is encouraging people to book tickets and fly during the quarantine. That just
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah,
very
that's
irresponsible.
also a very good point. If they would sell
Yeah.
the tickets now, even if it's like 100% for certain that the whole quarantine thing is over by then, it is distasteful.
There
Like,
would be so many scalpers. Like, you would just have like some one czar just like buying everything up, and it would be not good.
yeah, so it seems like your microphone sometimes is cutting off almost all, like not all the time.
Huh.
It cuts off every now and again, and usually it's such a small period that you can't tell that. But sometimes it's for like 2 seconds, and then it's like a few words are
Huh.
gone. Um,
Interesting.
Maybe look at voice activity later to make sure it's like
Yeah,
very
but it's
sensitive.
it's better than last week when we
Oh
were
yeah,
like,
oh
oh,
yeah,
like your
yeah, yeah,
your
yeah.
desktop has rejected your
Yeah, yeah,
microphone.
that was really bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cutting out sometimes. Usually it's
Hmm.
very short, so it's like barely noticeable, but sometimes it's a good second or two.
Yeah. Hmm.
But it's not all the time, it's just every now
Okay,
and again.
that's good. Yeah.
But yeah, I can remind you later
Yeah.
because it's something that you don't think about yourself because you're just talking.
Right.
Um, that
Yeah.
you should probably look at the voice activity sensitivity.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, where were we? About
Oh, just
events
talking.
and BlizzCon.
Yeah, just how a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the people that work at Blizzard, like the outside companies, are probably in chaos as well. They may be
Mm-hmm.
also, some might be going bankrupt. We're
Mm-hmm.
also talking about how, if people can't really afford tickets now, it's not the mindset to be spending
Yeah.
tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
It could also lead to a lot of scalping problems if, these sort of like shady rings
Mm-hmm.
have enough money to try to buy things and have a monopoly on them,
Mm-hmm.
which is also not
Mm-hmm. And also
good.
touching on the topic where when quarantine is over, it doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, everything is back to normal. There will
Yeah.
still be a lot of chaos because of, well, for one, people's routines being shaken up again. And also small things such as this school example I gave, where if all
Yeah.
the students are getting easier passes and maybe missing more school in general due to what's going on, then getting back into school later on might be difficult for a lot of students.
Yeah. So I think that's about it for this show.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was still we said a decently sized show, but we know we had to accumulate a few weeks of news.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed we can do a show next week if there is news.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll have some beta hint by then, but we say that every week. So I don't want to like bait people because I know it's really like I know sometimes like to constantly be like, oh, it's this week, it's like the boy who cried wolf. But
Yeah.
obviously, people are playing WoW more frequently. It would be a great time to actually get some new expansion info, so all those people staying at home that are enjoying WoW have something to be hype and excited about, because we could all use more
Mm-hmm.
excitement. So
But
fingers
Riot Cave is
crossed.
coming out next week, right? So
Right.
it's gonna be the week after. There you go.
Yeah.
That's your new date in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is I hope Bright Paw's okay. I hope he didn't make
Oh.
an appearance. So
Yeah. No, he's probably fine. He's
hopefully
like, this show had nothing to do with cats. I'm not interested.
did you see that he climbed I just worry now because last Monday I have like a little door where the plumbing is for the bathtub, and he unlocked the door, climbed into the pipe
Unlock the
door, and
door.
yeah, and then he climbed into the basement crawl space.
Oh my
And
god.
I had all the little openings with chicken wire, and I go outside and I see his little face pressed up against the chicken wire, but he's like on the house side, not the outside side.
Yeah.
So I had to pull apart part of the wall to drag him out. So now when I don't see him, I'm like, did he like
So
dig up the?
cheeky.
Is he underneath the floor again? Like I don't put
Yeah.
anything past him.
Aw.
Yeah.
He's a real adventurer.
Yes.
That's so cute. We see Maya here in the background walking across.
Aw.
She found something. She's sitting down, sniffing the carpet. Probably trying to lift it. She tries to sometimes lift the carpet. Yeah, no, my cats cannot unlock anything, I would say. They cannot open doors. If I mean, sometimes they try to by pushing it and stuff, but a lot of times when they're trying to push the door open, they're pushing the wall open. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, this door had a latch, and he managed to twist the latch
That's
and
amazing.
nudge it. Yeah.
Wow. We need IQ tests for cats.
Yes.
No, that's amazing though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, a question. All right, let's take this question
Yeah.
before we wrap up then.
Okay.
I have a
Yeah.
question. What is your favorite April Fool's patch note you ever read? Mine was when they made fun of warrior charges, and in the end they said, you know what, that's it. We just removed charge from the game completely. Coming from a warrior. My favorite April Fool's joke. I don't know. I feel like a lot of times those things are funny in the moment, but it's not something that I necessarily think about forever. So I can't think of any just like that. Like right now, from what happened in the most recent one, I do find the allied races with the photos quite funny. And I found the different essence talks, especially with perfection and things like that.
Yeah.
Like subtle furry jokes.
I really liked when they did the ghost crawler crab as Clippy. Like,
Oh
do
yeah.
you want any help?
Oh yeah.
I thought that was
I
a cute
remember
one.
that one. Yes, that was a good one actually. That was a good one. I don't know. I wouldn't call it funny, but one really cool one was also the one from this recent one. The weapon split was really cool from Wowhead.
Oh.
Yeah.
I
I think that's all I can think of now. I have a question. Do you think Blizzard will re-add more removed class abilities over time in Shadowlands and future expansions? I think it's something that they always discuss, and it's always a possibility that things will come back. I think for hype sense, they would probably not bring everything back, probably little things here and there. But I feel like they did touch the topic of going back to a more classic way of playing the games, having more class-specific spells, and going back to your class rather than going back to your spec focus. So I think we can definitely see more things coming up in Shadowlands, and not necessarily later in the expansion, probably straight away.
Yeah, I also feel that with how they do, they tend want to make a big splash at the start, whether that's because the most people are playing or that's what they focus on. The expansion launch has all the PR, they want to get that new system, make their mark, so they tend to front load a lot of class changes, and then as the expansion goes on, there's less, unless there's something that's in like really remedial need of like azurite and essences. So I feel like they want to have all that stuff in place when Shadowlands comes out, because they know the more people will try it out when they're advertising Shadowlands versus a year in the future when it's like, oh yeah, we're in the middle of the expansion.
For sure. I think the first patch is really important to catch people's attention. So most class abilities that they're planning to bring back into the game would probably be in the first patch.
Yeah. That said, they made it seem like the corruption system was like a trial, like a patch specific gearing system. So maybe they will have more elaborate or interesting gearing systems as Shadowlands progresses, so your character doesn't feel boring and the same. Like maybe you have like your abilities all get like death themed enhancements one time, or shadow themed enhancements, and it keeps gameplay exciting. And if like an ability is really cool, maybe that would end up being baseline if everyone uses it and it feels like a must-have interesting rotation.
I think having a gearing system specifically for the patch is very interesting, and it also kind of ties into the idea of our Mythic Plus affix, which has been patch-based this expansion. So I feel like that has been very well received, and it's probably something that they're looking more into. Not just having gear from that rate tier having a specific theme, but also Mythic Plus affix, or I don't know, are they removing that idea or are they sticking to it?
No, I think that's still staying. I mean, if anything, their build season feels like it will be more.
You're cutting out a lot.
Huh. I wonder, am I back to normal? Because I wonder if when my arm messes stuff up.
Oh wait, touch it again and keep speaking.
Testing.
Seems fine. It's interesting because when you did it the first time, it was cutting when you did that. So I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
To tell. Maybe it's not a voice sensitivity thing. Maybe it's the cable. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. It feels like they're trying to make each. Well, they stopped calling patches and they moved calling them content updates, and it feels that within the content update they want all of that reflecting a certain aesthetic or theme.
Aesthetic.
Like even things like, oh, it's the Dazora lore season, we have the certain affix, like the raid sets all look like bone, and then like the Warfront isn't just Alliance and Horde gear, it also has a certain aesthetic as well. Or with corruption, like everything is made to feel like corruption. It's not just like the tier set or Mythic Plus. So I feel like they're going to try to lean more in that direction. Maybe in Shadowlands we'd even see like, if Torghast is still meant to be a cool max level thing, maybe we'd see more and more like, I don't know, like story themed elements in Torghast as the content updates progress too.
Yeah, I definitely can see a more things being customized towards the content or patch or season. I think the corruption system does have some things that I don't like right now. One being just making it so hard to find items. Although horrific visions have helped a lot. At least I can get 1 or 2 items that I'm happy with in terms of item level, which will corrupt for sure. But it is still a bit heavy on RNG. But the idea of it, I think, is still really cool. Having something that's that describes the patch content is stuck on my gear, and that's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll probably see more content specific procs like that, whether it's gear or transmog or anything. But yeah, that's about it for today, guys. That's a wrap up.
Yep. So
we managed to put quite a few things together.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's a longer show than I thought, and that was a good question.
A lot of discussions.
So,
yeah, thank you all for watching and supporting, and for keep using Wowhead as your source of news. And feedback is always welcome. So if you have any feedbacks on this show or Wowhead in general, we are open to hear any of it. If it's Wowhead in general, then I think Wowhead has a channel for that. Feedback at wowhead.com.
Feedback. Yeah, don't message Annie or like my personal Twitter about feedback, because we might be like streaming or playing with cats. And
very important,
especially
play with cats
when we're when we're not like at work. So yeah.
But if it's to do with Wowhead Weekly, if you have any kind of feedback, feel free to just send a message. Whether it's on Twitter or Discord or anything, feedback is always welcome.
Yep.
Well, thank you for us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having us. And we will see you guys next show. Hopefully next week with some awesome news.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. And worst case for now, Wowhead is indeed Wowhead bi-weekly until we have some more news to actually update you guys with. So yeah.
Yep.
See you all next show.
Yep. Stay safe. Wash your hands.
Stay safe.
Support small businesses. Bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye. I almost forgot that I have to change the scene. I'm like, bye. I'll do this. Bye. There we go.
Oh, so we...
Okay, guys, we had to cancel the outro because even though there is social distancing going on, high-fiving online is completely acceptable.
Yes, so we're doing a high five. Don't do this in real life with random people.
Don't
Only
do this
online.
IRL, but you're free to do this online.
All right, 3, 2, 1.
Yay!
Yay!
Can't forget that. After serious reconsidering, we had to come back for that.
Yeah.
Okay, bye guys again.
Bye.